Well, good morning again from sailing vessel No Worries in the middle of the Atlantic. You might have seen that most of my small videos are done at night. I think it's probably because it's mostly at night that I become contemplative and start not only enjoying it more. Well, I enjoy sailing even during the day, just as much as during the night. But probably during the night you have more time to look at things. Also, there's nobody on board at the moment, so you start thinking about things. And I wanted to contemplate on some of the questions I had from Facebook, from friends, from other sailing enthusiasts. Who are in our WP Buccaneers sailing Facebook group on what it is to sail. And my answer is always there is much more to than sailing in sailing a yacht. Let me explain that. The actual sailing itself on a yacht is the least of the challenges. There is much more to it. There is, how should I say, crew management or the yacht management, the management of provisions, more the planning side, maintenance on the boat, the cooking. There's much more that is going on than just the sailing itself. Actually, learning to sail, in my opinion, you don't learn on a yacht. You start with small dinghies, so you get more active feedback when you do something wrong in dinghies. That's also by coincidence the path that I followed with some of my friends and colleagues. We started to sail on dinghies, very small skiffs. Worked our way up from lasers to hobbycats to small day sailors, and then we did our RYA courses. What was it? Day skipper, coastal skipper practical, yacht master offshore, and all of that basically gave us the going from learning how to sail to actually sailing a yacht and managing a yacht, managing a crew. And one of the aspects which is of course is important is safety on a yacht. We always plan for the worst and hope for the best. Over the past 20 years or so I've been sailing. There have been luckily only been a couple of occasions where things got really hairy. I don't think I've ever really been scared, but there were a couple of times where the things were a little bit hairy. So you always prepare, and especially at night in the middle of the ocean during night passage. We have some basic rules on the boat that we all follow. So when we come for night watch, normally on this boat we have one person per watch. And that person is basically responsible for the well-being of the boat, keeping things under control, and keeping an eye out. So the first thing in terms of safety is watch what's going on. So we have our plotter, we have automatic identification system that receives signals from any yachts or cargo vessels or commercial vessels, fishing vessels around us. We also have the radar on, but at the moment we're in the middle of nowhere and there is nobody and nothing around us. No reflections on the screen, no IS signals, nothing. So we keep watch. There's always 24 hours per day somebody at watch, at the helm, keeping an eye on not only traffic around us but also how the boat is doing, and eventually looking if we need to change something in the sail plan, adjust the course, adjust the sails itself, or trim the sails. But as we are now in the trade winds, things are pretty steady. We are on a pretty stable sail plan at the moment, where we can do quite a bit of course adjustments without having to fiddle around with the sails. During the night, we the moment the sun sets until the sun comes up, we always wear our safety harnesses, our life jackets, which are self-inflatable jackets, and then we're tethered in to the boat when there's a bit of a swell, as at this moment there's a bit of a swell. If we are sailing during the night with big sails, with the spinnaker, or when we have a lot of wind or very variable wind, or when there are squalls, there's always two people on deck. There's one at the helm at watch, and there's one in standby, who then is in the cockpit. That person might be sleeping, but there's always somebody that needs to be on standby. We had a couple of nights during this passage where this is the case. Even during the day, when we are running under big sails with a lot of wind, especially with variable wind, there's normally always a second person on deck. So if something happens, there is a second person at hand, ready to intervene. Luckily, we haven't had that many rough nights. I think the first night out of Gibraltar, we had a lot of wind. We were sailing very, very fast. The waves were very high. Well, not very high. They were high. They were considerable. I think they were the highest waves we've ever had in this passage. So we were two on deck. And then a passage from in the Canaries, from Fuerteventura to Gran Canaria. We also had two on deck because the weather was predicted and effectively turned out to be very squally. Rain clouds passing over with big shifts and wind, and we actually needed that second person on board, and it was very useful because we were sailing steadily on 20 knots. With quite a bit of sail out, and then in just 2 seconds it switched from 20 knots to 32 knots in just a few seconds. So we immediately had to adjust the sails, reef in the next minute. So it was good that we had the second person on board. Also, typically if you sail on a yacht, then not everybody of the crew has the same abilities. Some people know the boat better. All of the instruments know more than the others, or less than the others, in terms of what to do when problems pop up. So if there is crew who is less comfortable in sailing alone at night as watch, there's always a second person on deck to help. And then here also we have, let me do something that normally I don't do. Let me switch on some light. So we have always the radio systems on board, and then we also have a handheld radio here on deck. So in some yachts they have a person who is sleeping but has a radio in his or her sleeping cabin. So if something happens in the cockpit where they need extra help, we can call the person in his bunk. While we keep watch, we have some more basic rules. We stay, when we're alone on deck, we stay in the cockpit. This means we stay in the area, the more safe area in the boat. We never go alone on the bow of the boat. So let me again do something that we normally don't do. Switch on the light again. So we stay in this cockpit area, which is a very well protected area, but we never go further to the bow of the boat. There you can see it, alone during nighttime. So when we need to go on the bow, we call in a second person. So there's always somebody in the cockpit, and then that person can go on the bow. We have safety lines around the boat, so we always teeter in. As you can see at the moment, I'm teetered in to the boat. So if there's a freak wave that would throw me off my balance, we're secured to the boat. For the rest, basic rules. The rest is up to the crew themselves, how they want to run their watches. I personally, some people have their earphones in and listen to music, but personally I don't like to do that. Maybe it's my some habits from work. Working for the United Nations Security, one of the basic rules that we learn there is always to be aware of your environment. And I can not be aware of my environment if I have my music blasting in my headphones. Especially during the night when it is a very dark night like this one, I like to listen to the boat. By now we know all of the basic sounds of the boat, and then when somewhere a noise pops up that we're not used to, this means something is happening. It might not be something wrong, but it's just something is changing. And it might be that somewhere one of the lines is shaving, or it might be that some adjustments might be needed. We can also hear by the sound of the boat, we can hear if she's happy or not, or whether she's under stress or not. At this moment the boat is very happy. I don't think you can hear this on the video, but at the moment she's purring. The boat runs with the propeller free, so when the propeller spins, you can hear it, and she starts to spin nice and quick when we're under a good speed. And it's a bit like a cat purring. So at the moment the boat is purring. You can also hear when the boat is under stress. You can hear much more noises. You can also feel it. You feel when the boat is speeding up by the vibrations in the boat. So that's more the awareness of your environment, your surrounding, and that's how I personally like to sail. Some other people like to have their headphones in and listen to music or podcasts or audiobooks while sailing, but at night I don't like that. I also enjoy it more and be in the here and now when I can see the stars, when I can hear the wind, when I can hear the noises on the boat. It makes me enjoy it more. We're nicely rocking at the moment, but from time to time we have a freak wave, and the boat kind of tilts over. Not completely tilts over, but there's quite a bit of a movement on the boat. At this moment we're pretty stable. I can see the shade of the sail. You can see it on the video. I can see the shade of the sail versus the stars. So we're pretty steady. Voila. This is a bit a brief on safety on the boat during the night. And we'll see you in the next video. Good night and be safe.